Hi guys, Donal here. I'm just back from the Alpe Huez long distance triathlon. Absolutely fantastic event, kind of a bucket list event for me. But while it's fresh in my mind, I just thought I'd put a couple of notes down on video. If you are planning to do the event, things that I kind of didn't realize or found out while I was doing the event that maybe will help make your life a little bit easier. And there's 10 key things really for me. First of all is registration when you go up. Basically a couple of days before the race to register. Make sure you have your triathlon license from whatever country you're coming from. I came over from Ireland to do the event. If you don't have your triathlon license, you need to have a medical cert. They're quite strict at the start. Second thing is on race day, there's absolutely no problem parking at the top of Alpe d'Huez. There's a huge car park there, so you park there, there's no problem. But arrive good and early. If the race starts at 9:30, which I did this year, get there nice and early, get there around 7:30 or so. You need plenty of time to get down to the swim start. What you do is when you park your car, you put out your runners for the run. Make sure you kind of have a spare pair of socks there. I'll tell you about that again in a second. But have your runners there for the run. And then what you do is you put all the gear you need for the swim, your wetsuit and all your bits and bobs, because you have got to cycle down to the lake start. Now the blurb on the race says it takes 40 minutes, but I'd be surprised if Lance Armstrong made it down in 40 minutes. It's quite a long way. You don't want to be too tired when you go down. It's predominantly downhill, but there's a few uphill sections as well. So you want to just be kind of spinning down easy. So I would allow an hour for that to get down to the actual start line. The third thing then is the actual start line transition. When you get down there with all your bits and bobs, make sure one of those bits and bobs is some sort of towel that you can put under your feet, because when you come out of the water, it's very grassy and you pick up all these things on your feet. You want to clean them off before putting on your socks, before getting on your bike, unless you're one of these elite guys with no socks. But I think you definitely need socks for this event, especially my level. And you want to have clean feet, because if you're cycling for hours and you've got grass and bits of twigs in your feet or in your shoes, it's very uncomfortable. So bring a little towel. The fourth thing is race start. Now this is really, really important. When you're down at the transition, at the Lac de Vernay, ready to start the race, you'll see a countdown clock. So you'll probably arrive and that clock will be at an hour. Now that clock is the clock that's linked to your ankle bracelet. When that clock goes to 0, the race will start. Irrespective of what else is happening in the water and the start line and the guy that's standing there trying to push everybody back, once that clock goes to 0, the race is on. So the key thing is, when you see that clock counting down to around 15 minutes, you need to be getting into the water. Because what you had this year was a lot of elite people pushing up to the start line. You had a guy in a boat saying, get back, get back. They were all pushing past him. Then you had people like me sitting back maybe 30 meters to try and let the scrum of swimmers go. And then what you had was that countdown clock back on the shore, counting down to 0. The gun goes, there was still people getting into the water. It's absolutely mental. The guy on the boat who's pushing people back says, oh, go! So everybody goes, it's very fraught. So pay attention to that countdown clock, get in the water good and early, and it's survivable. It's one of these mass starts. It's not like rolling start like Ironman. It's quite frenzied to say the least. The other thing about the swim is there's only 4 markers. You do 2 laps and there's only 4 markers on the course. So at the markers, everybody kind of converges. It's fraught and it's tough and it's kind of, you get knocked around. That's just part of it. So just be ready for that. By the time the second lap comes, it will have eased out a bit. The other thing was, is the lake cold? Well, if you're coming over from Britain or Ireland, it's not very cold at all. It was 15 degrees this year, a lot warmer than the lake I'd be training in, so don't be worried about the cold. Bring a neoprene hat just in case, but that's the least of your worries, the swim. But by the time the second lap comes, it has freed out a bit and you will get it done, no problem. Fifth thing is your bike. For goodness sake, leave your time trial bike and your disc wheels at home. This triathlon is no place for a time trial bike. Bring your climbing bike equipped with gears. I'll talk about the gearing in a second, but don't bring your time trial bike. It's not a race for that. It's predominantly climbing, as well as the advertised ones. There's all little bits and pieces of climbing. If you're on a time trial bike, it'll kill you, and it's dangerous. It's actually dangerous to handle coming down a hill, so just leave it at home. Number 6 is gearing for your bike. I'm not going to go into the technicalities of gearing, whatever setup you have on your bike, but I will say this: however many gears you have on your bike, you haven't enough. You need more gears. And it's easy for me to say that. You're thinking, oh, I'm a way better standard than this guy doing the video. But let me put it to you like this: if you've cycled up the Alpe Triathlon before with the bike you're using in the race and you got up there fine, consider reaching the bottom of Alpe Triathlon after being 4 hours on your bike and having done all these climbs. Climbing Alpe Triathlon is much tougher. The other thing is, you're not just trying to get to the top of Alpe Triathlon and reach a finish line. You're trying to get to the top of Alpe Triathlon, get off your bike and run. So many people this year got to the top of Alpe Triathlon with the wrong gearing, pushed to the top of Alpe Triathlon, got off their bike, and their legs just did not work. You're up at altitude, you're exhausted after however many hours, 4.5, 5 hours, some people. You get off your bike and you're exhausted. Remember, you've got to run 22 kilometers. So however many gears you have on your bike, bring plenty. You need to be able to spin up to the top of Alpe Triathlon fresh enough to get off and run. That was one of the mistakes I made. Not enough gears on my bike. 7 is aid stations. Again, on the bike is the key thing for the aid stations. They're as listed in the schedule that you'll get emailed and in the race briefing. But they're very different. Some of the aid stations have guys holding out bottles of water. Some of them are actual small little tin bottles of water. So they're not really much use to you in terms of putting them on your bike, because you can't keep them on your bike. So you might have to stop and refill. Other stations, they'll actually give you the power bar bottles. Some of them will be full, some of them will be half full, so it's very haphazard. But I would say the key thing is, in terms of gels and food, bring all that yourself. You know, there are some available at the stops, but be self-sufficient as much as possible, and I think you'll do it a lot better. I mean, a lot of the stops, or not a lot of the stops, but 1 or 2 of the stops, I think Valbonnet was one, but I could stand corrected on that, one of the main stops, you had to get off your bike, or you had to bring your bike up towards a table, and some guys already got parked across the table. So, you know, you could lose a lot of time if you're trying to get a great time. So like the aid stations are kind of slow and could be organised a little bit better, but having said that, it is a brilliant race. Number 8, pacing on your bike. Now, I already talked to you about gears, but when you're on the bike, the first climb is up to the Grand Stair, but the climb is actually called the Col de Mort. It's everyone locally knows it. It's a very, very tough climb. So no matter how good you're feeling after coming out of the water and cycling to this, it's grand and flat to get to it. But take it easy going up the Col de Mort, because it's a very, very tough climb. The next one of real significance is the Col d'Ornon, and that's everyone will tell you that's it's a very shallow gradient. It's like 3 or 4%, but it is extremely annoying, especially if it's windy and there's no zigzags or switchbacks to count down. It's almost a straight road, and you'll feel like you're going nowhere. It's mentally taxing. I found that one much tougher than people said. And then you're heading towards Alpe d'Huez. And again, just to reiterate the point, when you get to the bottom of Alpe d'Huez, you're not just climbing up to the top. You're climbing up to the top and then preparing for the run. So pacing is important on the bike. Number 9, the run. The run is much hillier than you think. It's 3 laps of whatever, 6.6 kilometers or something. I can't remember exactly, but it's 3 laps, but it's much hillier than you think. If you look at the run lap as a whole, it's basically half of it is up and half of it is back down into the town of Alpe d'Huez. So it is, be prepared for a very hilly run. Number 10 is your runners. It's a trail run. I made the mistake of bringing kind of my small runners that I ran marathon in. They were not suitable at all. There's little rocks and narrow paths. It's a trail run. I'd have trail runners all day long for the run. Tie them up well, because there's lots of little stones and bits and pieces. You'll stub your toe if you have little light runners, like I did several times. So I would say it's a trail run. So those are 10 things that I think might help you, kind of a little bit of mistakes I made at the Alpe Triathlon. But it is a fantastic event. The sense of achievement when you do it is brilliant. It's like an Ironman. it's even tougher than an Ironman, especially the cycle. But it's a memory to take away forever. I hope that helps you. Best of luck if you're doing the event in 2018 or beyond. It's a real bucket list event. I'm really delighted that I did it. So hope it helps. Best of luck.